Welcome to Koffee Talks with Dan Norton and David Person.
Dan, is that you? I mean, you don't look like you've aged at all since we've been apart. And have you? And how long have we been apart, Dan? I don't even know what's going on anymore. What month or century are we in?
I think we're about 4 days since we last recorded.
Wow, time flies when you're not having fun, Dan. Dan, I need to make an announcement to the audience. I just want to be very upfront and get it out there. This was all a large hoax, and I needed a break. I can't go that many days and podcast without a break. It's not worth it to me. I've got nothing to gain from it. I don't even care anymore. The whole hobby's got me, so ripped apart due to all the scalping and stuff. So what I did this for, guys, is I did this for Dan and Laura's relationship. I realized there was something wrong. I'm not going to get into it, but Dan sent me some confidential messages. Laura has sent me twice as many as Dan. And there's something going on, and it's not about the dogs and the allergies and that kind of stuff. This is about real marital infighting. And I thought this opportunity to put the two of them together on a podcast without me there, this would really rekindle their relationship. So how did I do, Dan? Let's be honest. Let's really have an open conversation for our friends that are out there watching. How has this been for your marriage and repairing things a little bit?
Well, Laura agreed to do 1 or 2 videos with me, so the last couple of days she's been begging for you to come back. She did not want to keep doing videos.
Dan, let me just pin you down just a little more, and then we're going to talk about her being your new sidekick, because I think we need to really get into that. But did it help the marriage, Dan? Did it help the marriage? Did you start moving the marriage back on track to the direction it was when you first, united 107 years ago, 10 years ago?
I mean, I don't think it made it worse, so that's something.
That is something, Dan. Yeah, just right to the point. Good. Dan, how did she do? I mean, let's be honest. She's not going to watch any of this, so we don't really need to hold anything back. As a podcast partner, did she hold up her end of the bargain? How did she do, Dan?
Yeah, Laura did well. It was, at least the first couple were just very, very short chats, because we hoped it was just a couple of days filler, and then when it seemed like you were going to be out for a bit longer, we did put a bit more thought into the videos after that. I actually really liked the Build-A-Bear one that we just put up, today as we're recording this, yesterday as people saw it. So Laura did well on those. Lack of planning was a lot down to me, I think, because I was just trying to get a couple of quick days out. But don't be sick again, because Laura's going to Atlanta for a regionals on Friday, so you need to at least get through to Monday before you can be sick again.
Well, that's nice, Dan. Thank you. Let's just put that out there for everybody. I think it's important. Sometimes Dan makes a really important point, and we should reiterate. Just stop and really understand the beauty of it. Don't be sick again. Well, that's great, Dan. Thank you, and I appreciate the caring. I think everybody, it really comes through in the way that you address it. So, speaking of sickness, illness, I want to tell everybody what was going on. I alluded to it in one of the podcasts, and I said I thought what was going on. So here's what happened. This is my own theory. They never know exactly what this is about when it does happen. It's about the third time in my life that this has happened. This is called TMJ, Tom, Martha, Jar. It's this right here. It's right here in the side and right here. It's your jaw joint, and it connects to your skull, and it comes all the way down through here. And so I think this is what I did for the first 14 or 15 days till I figured it out. I did this. Watch me again. I went with my head up. I was not propped up like I am now. I went like this. And I put everything out of whack, okay? Now, the reason I'd had this issue before was nothing to do with tilting my head. It has to do generally with bruxism, Bruxism, which means grinding your teeth. If you're a person that experiences stress, wears a night guard, doesn't wear a night guard, clenches during your sleep time, you can get TMJ disorder. And it is one of the worst pains that I've ever experienced in my life, okay? And I've had it, like I said, 3 times before. It can take a few days. It can take months to go away, depending on how bad it's set in. Well, guess what happened after it happened with me and Dan doing the podcast? As you know, if you follow me on Instagram, I had a dentist appointment coincidentally for nothing other than the fact I've been scheduled for 6 months that I went to immediately after this thing started paining me. You sit there for 40 minutes, as you guys know, with your mouth open. That didn't do me any help at all. And I didn't want to cancel an appointment because I'd had it scheduled for 6 months. So all hell broke loose, and I basically couldn't eat any solid foods, could barely get anything in. Pain. It feels like, here's what it feels like, guys. It feels like you have cavities in all of your teeth. Everything is sensitive, a perpetual toothache. I still have it today. I'm on several, I take 4, 8, 12 Motrin a day, but luckily it's healing up. You have to ice, you have to do massage, whatever. So that's all the details I'm going to get into. But if you guys ever have an issue like that, a lot of home massage on the cheeks, a lot of ice and heat going back and forth, and hopefully things settle down. So it is good to be back. I'm glad to try to hold my end up of the bargain. Uncle
I'm going to
Dave,
have that. I'm
huh?
going to have that problem in a few years because I'm notorious for grinding my teeth. My dentist tells me about it all the time. I grind my teeth and I'm a mouth breather because up until a couple of years ago, I had a deviated septum, so I couldn't breathe through my nose properly. And then just even after having it fixed, on instinct, I still breathe through my mouth quite a lot, which they tell me about. And on top of that, my ear canals go the wrong way, so everything up in this area is just messed up.
Well, it's good to know to get ahead of it, Dan, because if it really does happen, it's like I said, it's literally debilitating. So at least in the beginning, I've had a niece that's had surgery to actually have to deal with it as well. So the good news, what you said, Dan, is having a breathing through your mouth is actually a good thing in this situation, because clenching means your mouth is not open, and so you get a mouth guard to actually propel your mouth open a little bit to try to allow it automatically not to clench down. So having an open mouth, like last night when I was sleeping, I purposely tried to keep my mouth open just to try to not have that clenching going on, because that's what makes it worse. So if you look behind me right now, you will not see anything that you would normally see. And you might say, Uncle Dave, why? What happened to you? Is your whole life gone to hell because of this? It really has, but that's not really the answer to the question. It is because my small cat named Luca the cat, like Luka Doncic, he has decided today that he was going to take my chair, and he is sleeping soundly next to me where he's been for the last 3 to 4 hours. And I refuse to wake him up because the podcast is important, but not that important. Okay. Let's talk about, what else do I have down here?
Let me say, this is definitely a better area for you to sit because there is not the crazy echo like there has been the last few that you recorded.
Okay, good. Well, then we won't get as many complaints from our watchers, and that would be a nice thing. And where's the mic, Uncle Dave? Where's the mic? Okay, my GoFundMe is going up soon. I wanted to talk about quickly just one follow-up. There was a situation, and we did a nice video. I was really proud of it. I thought it was a good video about the markets, Pokemon purchases coming up, what's going on in the stock markets right now. I was right. I like to be right. That's a good thing. Any of you that would like to move your money to me as a financial advisor, feel free to let me know. I will gladly send you my latest commentary I wrote to all of our clients, but I said this. I said, do not buy into the stock markets right now. Do not. Wait. And anybody that will see this tomorrow will understand that today was the worst slip of a market, the worst turnaround from a positive to a negative. I think they said in something like 50 years or 60 years since the 1980s. So what happens is the market falls and people think, oh, it's my chance to buy. This is different. And why do I point this out? Because one of the largest influencers out there did a video the first day the market crashed. And he put out there and he said, and he was throwing his chairs around like he does, and he was screaming, buy. This is the time to buy. When no one wants to buy, this is the time to buy. And he screamed and he shouted and he threw things and he busted tables. And then he did another one the next day when the market fell further. And he said, it doesn't matter. You buy today, you buy tomorrow, you continue to buy when this thing is falling. So as I said before, right now the knife is falling. You should not be buying. This is a real situation of economic global transformation. And I think it's relative both to the stock market and to the Pokemon markets. This influencer, folks, has a lot more money than you and me. So it's certainly easy when he can put out there and he can say, buy, because it's like you have more money to put in every single day while this thing falls and falls, as it's done the last 4 days. We're now down 25, 30% in technology stocks, more than that, and regular stocks about 20 or so. It's ridiculous, okay? And you have to be patient. You have to be patient for any of the stock market stuff. We don't all have the money that he has where we can just make that mistake and keep buying in. I would wait, let the knife fall all the way down. You're not going to pick it up right at the bottom, but you'll pick it up a little bit afterwards and you'll be just fine. And I think there'll be a great number of Pokemon deals to be had at that point in time if this thing continues, which at the rate it's going, if there's not some kind of substantial switching by the administration, this could be a 1 or 2 year or more lengthy thing. I'm going to say one more thing because I think people find this interesting. It's not talked about in Pokemon era. We're talking about the markets. I believe, and I've said to my clients, that I think one of the only things that can bring us out of this, other than a tremendous switch in what the presidential administration chooses to do here with respect to tariffs and other things, is the Fed cutting rates. And it's very unusual in this situation. Jerome Powell, the head of the Fed Reserve, does not like President Trump, and they didn't want to do it. Today, they came out and said, one of the Fed governors in San Francisco or something said, we are not going to save the economy by cutting rates. I think at some point they're going to have to, and it's very unusual. If they don't, then they end up having to raise interest rates like they did in the 1970s, 80s. And you get a situation where inflation is just zooming, and interest rates are 15, 16, 18% high, something ridiculous. I hope it won't get to that. I hope that the Fed, despite their their disdain for President Trump and his threats to them, at some point when this thing gets out of hand, much, much worse, they need to start bringing interest rates down, just because companies are already starting to lay off. Companies are already starting to cut their expenses. It's already going to be in the bottom line by the end of next quarter. When companies announce earnings, you're going to start to see all of the factors that are going to factor into them having worse earnings than they'd ever projected, because of all of the tariffs and the impact on consumer spending and the bottom line of companies. So I was not intending to go off on that tangent, but I think it's important because we're in the middle of it, and you guys have to continue to heed the advice that I hope that you find valuable. Dan, you want me to move on to the topic of the day?
Yeah, because I understood about 10% of that.
Okay.
All I understood was don't buy anything right now, or don't invest in anything right now. Which,
correct.
I guess that's all you need to know.
Right. And, I always say to everybody listening, I know, Dan is the best. So what I say is one pearl of wisdom. If you go to a conference, if you go to a seminar, if you go to whatever, you're looking for one pearl of wisdom. So I think Dan got it, and I appreciate that. Dan, I wanted today's topic to be starting a collection today. I wanted to talk about this before I ended up hurting, my neck and stuff and my jaw. I can't do as much laughing or stuff today, smiling. Everything still does hurt. So I've been thinking a lot about starting a collection today, and I'll give some initial thoughts and let Dan take it over from there. It's hard to start a collection today in any situation because you have to be able to find product. And I'm really talking mostly about kids, but I don't have to be talking about kids because I can be talking about anybody. We're all big kids as adults as well. And so the first thing that comes to mind is you got to get your hand on some kind of packs or some kind of box or some kind of something. How do you do that? How do you do that most effectively? And then how do you do something while you can trust whatever you're buying? So what do I mean? If it happens to be the case that Journey Together is sitting on a shelf in Target or Walmart, obviously that's a great way to start buying packs for somebody to at least get the feeling of opening packs. And the reason I say that is because so many people send messages to me on my Instagram and say, David, you're showing a wonderful card, and it reminds me of my youth when I opened my first pack and I found this. So that seems to be a memory that really gets etched in the brain and is very special for people, finding something special in a pack. But the thing I worry about is, can you actually find those packs? I know you're starting to find a little bit more of them in the Journey Together world. And number two is, can you trust the packs you find? And I believe personally that you can trust what you find on the shelves at Target or Walmart, but I don't believe you can trust what you find on the internet sites like eBay, et cetera, even Facebook. I worry about those things being scanned, searched, whatever else you would say. What am I trying to say? Weighed, et cetera. And so from that standpoint, I would be a fan of anything online, looking at buying a box of something, whatever it is, an actual sealed box. If it means that you're talking to kids or for kids or your kids about, hey, let's get a couple of the neighbors involved and we're going to buy a box for $150, or we're going to buy a collection box for $40, and we can split those 8 or 10 or 36 packs or something. But it's worth it to me, in my opinion, to try to do something like that, because I don't trust anything else that anybody else puts out there. And that got me to thinking about collection boxes as another way of starting to find a beginning point of all this, where you can start to buy some packs. We're going to talk about things that don't involve just packs. But as a lot of folks have shown, like in the Vegas area here, they'll say, hey, look what Target has out right now. And there'll be some boxes that nobody has an interest in, right? And Dan could give you the more current ones that might still be sitting on a shelf.
That big Charizard.
Huh?
That big Charizard one, the one with the figure inside of it.
Yes.
Every store has hundreds of those.
Okay.
No one is buying that one.
Right. And the only difference about that one in particular, and I think that's a good example, like that that brown one was that you opened up and it had like 7 packs and a bunch of promos. That was popular for a while. It's still kind of gone up in price. The only problem with the Charizard one is sometimes you end up paying more for that Charizard figure, but it's kind of cool. Like I love that Charizard figure. And so, I'm not sure how you would share that amongst the people that bought the box, but there's boxes that are still sitting out there for $30, $35 or whatever. And normally I'm thinking, why would anybody want those? But I'm thinking of myself. I see people say it's on the shelf in Vegas somewhere. I don't want it because I don't need the promos from it or the packs. But what a fantastic way to buy something as a starting point where you sort of get an automatic level of variety in the different set packs that come in there. And it allows for a new person or somebody, relatively new to get a chance to see the different kind of cards that are coming in the different kind of sets. And that's why, for me, that might be kind of a good starting point. Dan, your thoughts before we sort of break off from there?
Yeah, I definitely think everything you said there is totally correct. The variety of packs is nice because you're going to have a much lower chance of getting duplicates, because when someone's starting out, if they're collecting rather than playing, they don't want duplicates. They want as many different cards as they can get. Though those collection boxes, they suck for us for the same reason, because even though I open packs that you don't, when I bought the most recent ones, the Hopzation boxes, they had a couple of Journey Together packs, Surging Sparks, and then there was an Obsidian Flames pack in there. I got two because we got one from me and Law. The Obsidian Flames packs are just there. I now have 2 sealed Obsidian Flames packs lying around because I just don't need anything from that set. That set's 2 years old. I'm pretty much done with that set. There's no point in me opening the packs anymore. But if you're just first getting into it, you're going to get some Obsidian Flames. You're going to get some Surging Sparks. You're going to get some Journey Together. It's a really nice way to go about it. I will say the Charizard one, I think the reason the Charizard one is still around is that no one ever wants to buy 2, because so much of the value of that product is tied up in that figure. It's still a decent price for the amount of packs in there. I think it goes for about 80, $90 or something, and there's maybe 12 packs in there, so it's not too bad, but it's not as good a value per pack as these other boxes. So a lot of people will buy one because they want a copy of the Charizard promo and they want one of the figure, but no one wants 10 of the figure. Whereas these other collection boxes, people will go and buy out the shelves if they can, just to get their hands on the packs, because it's good price per pack. So if you are starting out, the Charizard is not the worst thing to buy. Even though there's a lot of them on the shelves, even though it looks like no one wants them, it kind of is just that no one wants multiple. So if you really just want to start out and you really want to jump in, shop around, because a lot of places are discounting them. I think you can probably get it for about 60 or something right now, maybe even a bit less. I've heard that potentially Sam's Club are knocking them down to 50 coming up, but I haven't seen that in person. But that's a decent product if you just want a variety of sets and to really kickstart a collection. Biggest thing I think for kickstarting a collection is don't get bogged down in the information too much. There is so much information out there about Pokemon collecting, you're never going to learn it all. And if you get tied up in the idea of, I need to know everything before I go in, I need to fully decide what I'm going to collect, I need to know, is this a set I'm going to collect, am I going to collect that set? It's just going to get so overwhelming that you're going to end up not actually buying anything. The best way to do it is to just jump in, get something, open it. Maybe once you've opened packs from a few different sets, you'll look at it and go, okay, this is the set I like. I'm going to only open this set from here on in, which is fine. But if you try and make that decision before you've opened anything, it's not going to work out very well for you.
And my comments are premised exactly on that point, Dan. That's exactly the point I'm coming from as well. My point is you need to start at a point where you have an open mind and you get to open things and see that variety of different things. And so by opening packs from different sets, maybe it's a 10-year-old kid or something like that, and there's even, of course, even an adult, because we all have our favorite characters, and they start opening and they're looking at I don't know the name of any single character, so give me say anything, Dan. Give me a crazy one, Wooloo or Hulu, or I don't know what they're called. Anyway,
Wooloo should be
okay.
easy to collect. It's only been out for one generation.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe a kid looks at that or an adult looks at that and they go, I absolutely love that card, and I'm going to start focusing on that card. Where can I find that card? And that's the reason I'm behind this kind of starting methodology. I want to talk about acquisition of some of these boxes. You've mentioned a couple things. You mentioned a couple of products, but I do want to say a couple things. When I started out, I only knew of eBay. Okay. Now there's a lot of other things. There's not just eBay, there's TCG Player. And of course, a lot of people end up shopping on Facebook as well, Facebook marketplaces of different kinds like Verbank or whatever. So you do need to take some time and effort, and you need to go out and you need to shop around to try to find deals on some of this stuff. You're going to invariably have sellers that have extras of some of these things. And there is an influencer, I'm not going to say anything public yet, but he does podcasts and he talks all the time. He's very big, and he talks about how to get everything that his distributors want to give him or are willing to give him, he has to buy all the junk as well. And sometimes the junk, which, because it's not a Journeys Together box, it's not junk, but there's stuff that isn't as much in demand. They have tons of this stuff on their shelves. And number one is if you go to some of these bigger distributors or these bigger vendors, I should say, and ask, could we buy a couple of boxes for starting a collection or whatever? I'm absolutely positive they would say, sure, I'm glad to give you that at a lower price, discount that for you. They have an inclination to want to help people out. And the most amazing thing is I've now seen on Facebook. Facebook is crazy. There are people screaming on Facebook at everybody for every reason, like the whole world is screaming. I've got the neighbors screaming at us right now because they don't want us to run our little basketball organization in my house. Another thing I've dealt with for the last few days. So you've got legal complaints and all kinds of baloney. The whole world is screaming at each other. But every once in a while, and more often than you'd realize, you can put a request out on your Facebook local group or on Facebook Verbank or whatever and say, you know what? I am starting a collection for my child and I'm looking for collection boxes. Do any of you have anything extra you might be willing to sell a little bit under market to help us out in getting started? Not only do you not have to pay the fees typically in that, like the extra 10 or 12% on an eBay, you might have to pay 3% or something for a PayPal, transaction. But so many people, more than I ever thought, say, yeah, I can help you out. And I always laugh at that because the first thing is you don't ever believe it, right? You're like, I'm looking for a box for my wife. What? Like what? That I just laugh. I go, okay, great. So that you get the wife discount when you're looking for your wife.
Yeah.
But there are actually people that are looking for their wife and their children, and they're looking to do something like this, and they're very kind and considerate. And so I am always out there when I'm looking for more of investment for myself, just saying, hey, would you be willing to go this price? Could you do this? Check where they're located. I'm close to you. The shipping is not very much, et cetera, et cetera. You need to be buying through PayPal goods and services to protect yourself. Do not buy through PayPal friends and family. Do not buy through Venmo goods and services. Buy through PayPal goods and services to protect yourself. But there are so many good deals to be had out there if you kind of know what you're looking for.
Yeah. Another good thing to do is, this isn't as a great advice for just jumping in like today, but going forward, get to know a local game store. When people talk about how, there's nothing on shelves at local game stores, it gets pre-ordered. That happens. But they still get quite a bit. The people who are going on saying, I'm missing out, no local game store has anything, I can't get anything from a local game store, that's because they wandered into the local game store on release day and said, do you have 2 boxes of this? No, of course they don't. It was pre-ordered. There are products coming out, we're at the start of April now, there are products coming out in June that I've already pre-ordered from local stores. Because as soon as a product's announced, I speak to the local stores. I say, can you put me on the list for this? I know I'm going to want it. I'm top of the list because I'm the first person that does that. A couple of other people will do that as it's coming closer and closer to release. And normally about a week or 2 before a product releases, that's about when stores stop taking pre-orders because normally they fill a list or they know, how much they're going to get in distribution. So just do that. Get to know a store. Get to know the store owners. Store owners are normally pretty good with this kind of stuff. Like, they want to sell you stuff. No store owner doesn't want to sell you anything. If you're willing to buy stuff and they have it, they're going to sell it to you. So just get to know the store owner, find out from them, have a conversation. How far in advance can I pre-order a product that's coming out? 3 weeks, great. I know this one's coming out in 4 weeks' time, so in a week, I'll call you, I'll put my name on the list. Just start pre-ordering. It's so simple.
Right, and I'm going to follow up on that. That's a great idea. The thing about that is you are focused really on newer stuff, and of
Sure,
course we
but
all want to be focused on newer stuff given the opportunity. Again, in the early stage of my discussion here, I kind of presume that early stuff might not be as available, but absolutely, it's certainly worth the inquiry. But I'll give you an example, and you walked into this store with me down the road here that just recently got broken into.
I mean, let me also just add, a lot of stuff gets restocked. I will say, people have been talking lately about. There was someone in a local Facebook group to mine was shocked that some cards were going down in value because they'd invested in some Paldea Evolved stuff, and they said, "Why is it going down in value?" And I said, "Well, one of the reasons is that set just got a reprint, and there's a few sets that have been confirmed to be back at distributors and getting reprints. Pokemon sets can basically be reprinted while they're in standard. It's only once sets rotate out of standard that really you can expect they're not going to get a reprint again. So if there's a product that's been released even in the past couple of years, if there's a set you really like, there's again still no harm in speaking to your local game store and just saying, look, if this product does get restocked, please can you save me one? It's not just all about the brand new stuff that's been announced. You can look into getting that older stuff too, especially with stuff like Prismatic. They've said that they're going to do restocks on all of the products that have already come out. So even though, the surprise boxes have already been out, the ETBs have already been out, sticker collections have already been out, there's no harm in just saying to your local store, can you put me on the list in case this comes back?
I think it's important that you just briefly give a quick explanation of rotate out of standard, because I know that 90 out of 100 people know what that means, but some people don't. So when you say when they rotate out of standard, what does that mean for anybody watching?
Yeah, so that's to do with the playing of the game. So currently, it's about once a year, Pokemon says, this oldest block of sets are no longer tournament legal for for the standard format, which is what most tournaments are played in. It's actually it's either just happened a few days ago or it's happening this sometime later this month. Standard format is rotating. I think it goes to Scarlet Violet on. It's to do with the actual legality markers on the cards they have now. They have a little letter in the bottom, but it's basically Scarlet Violet on. So we can now expect that nothing pre-Scarlet Violet is going to get reprinted again. And we've known that for a couple of months, that that's what the rotation was going to be. So for about another year, it's potential that Scarlet Violet sets could still get reprints. And then in about a year's time, it will probably be about the first 4 Scarlet Violet sets that rotate out of standard, at which point that's when you can assume that those ones are never going to get reprinted again, outside of maybe the occasional pack in a collection box, but that might be just emptying the warehouse. So standard is the bottom line is standard is to do with the tournament structure of Pokemon. It's the playing side, but that's how it affects the collecting side.
Okay. Thank you for the explanation. So let me talk a little bit more about the local game store. I'm going to give one quick example. So I am not aware necessarily. Dan is in and out of his local game store a lot more than I am, because most of my purchases are online. And of course, I'm not really purchasing all the different things. I'm buying the complete sets when I can. But I look at the local game store that opened up here recently that Dan, when he comes over, we've been in there and shopped before, and they've got an absolute ton of inventory. And when I used to have a game store back in my sports cards days, 35, 40 years ago, whatever, people could come in and I would certainly negotiate on anything, price-wise, because I wanted to move stuff, especially when you have that much inventory. So as an example, I called this store one day and I saw that Dan, what's that big black box called?
The Classic Collection.
I saw the Classic Collection was on sale. It might even still be out there. It's been out there for months and months at Sam's Club. And it's like $195 at Sam's Club. So by the time you add tax, it's probably around $210 or something. And I just wanted one. I just wanted to put one away forever and open one finally so that Dan could put it in a binder for me to do whatever he does. So long story short, I called the owner of the store and I said, look, Sam's Club has this at $195 plus tax. You have it at $349 or something like that in your store. Would you be willing to sell one for cash for $200? And he said, absolutely. So this is my point, and this is what Dan is saying, that sometimes when I think about the fact that there is so much stock in there, if I went in just for basic collection boxes, not brand new ones, but ones over the last 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sets, they've got plenty of that stuff. Collector's chests and any kind of product that has that stuff in it. And if they're in a move to move inventory, especially if things aren't selling really well in that older stuff, everybody just wants new, they have to clear shelves and they understand it's cooped up money. And if they get more money than what they paid, at some point, they're not going to care. They're still trying to pay the overhead and everything. So it makes sense to go in and ask if they're willing to make a deal, be courteous, don't presume, don't expect them to. That's not fair. But saying, hey, if I made a deal or bought a few things from you, would you consider lowering the prices? Absolutely. And you might even, and again, this game store has the kids of the owner working. I'm not so sure they have the opportunity to make the decisions on their own. Sometimes they have to call dad. But regardless, you might be able to say, hey, owner, I'm interested to know if I were looking to buy something like collection boxes, is there something you have more of? Do you have a quantity of something more in stock that you'd like to get rid of that I could possibly not be impacting you in a negative way if I bought 5 or 6 of them to open packs and that kind of thing? And I think those are other couple ways that you can communicate in a courteous and understanding manner with these folks and hopefully sort of create that win-win that we're always looking for.
Yeah, that's a really good way to do it as well, because there will be some products that these stores just have a ton of. I mean, I guess at the absolute peak, like we're talking late December, early January, they maybe didn't, because it hit to the point where everything new was gone, so people were just buying anything that was there. But under normal circumstances, there's going to be something you can do. A lot of these stores as well, if they're stores that buy singles from people, they probably take in a lot of bulk, because stores that buy singles often will buy bulk at like a half a cent per card to a cent per card is kind of where bulk is right now. The store is never going to sell that bulk. The store actively doesn't want that bulk. The reason stores buy bulk is it gets people to sell the other cards that you can make a profit on. Because if I go into a store and be like, oh, I've got all these cards, and we only want those 3, I'm gonna leave. But if they say, oh, we'll take those 3, and yes, we'll take those 35,000 bulk that you've got behind you, we'll give you $9 1,000 or whatever. Great, I'm much more likely to then sell the valuable stuff at the trading cost. So if stores do that, often stores then do their own like repackaged things for kids of like 200-300 cards that are guaranteed all Pokemon. There's no trainers, no energy, because the kids don't want that. And you can get that for a few bucks. You know they're all genuine cards. They're just cards that other people have opened from packs, and they're in there. So if you just have a kid that is looking for just to have some Pokemon cards, and you're struggling to find other stuff, speak to a store and just say, do you just have some bulk? Like, can I buy 1,000 bulk for $11? And they're ecstatic. They've made $3 on 1,000 bulk cards that they were never going to shift. So that's always another way to look at it if your kid just wants some Pokemon cards.
Yeah, and that's not a bad way for kids to at least get to know the characters as well. That's the other benefit of that. But
I will say, David, unlike you, the kids already know the characters. The kids know Pokemon before they get to the cards, rather than the other way around.
Yeah, you've said that from the shows and all kinds of other avenues as well. So, so I do want to say that leads me to what not to do. And I think you guys know where we come from on this, but there's always going to be someone watching that maybe has a different opinion, and that's fine. I am not a big fan of. I would suggest, number one, anything in a store that's not actually from the Pokemon company, you do not buy it. Do not buy repacks. Do not buy. This is what people do. They repack, and they sometimes repack packs. And again, you have no way to know if those packs, even if you get a great pack, it hasn't been weighed or something else. I've had people buy packs off me for years, and they never question any of it. And I know my reputation is I've never weighed, searched, or scanned anything, but it still marvels that they'll buy individual packs and not just from boxes. So a lot of other people are much less critical about that.
Yeah, I'll say that sort of similar goes against what I just said. But if the store's being open about it, if it being bulk,
No,
that's
I don't
fine. It
mean
buys a
bulk.
repackage.
I'm
I know
talking
what you mean. I'm
about,
just saying the
yes,
difference. You're meaning like in Target they have those
yes.
bricks. Generally, the rule is if you if the box is completely opaque, it's not from Pokemon. Stuff from Pokemon, whether it's a blister pack, a box, whatever, it has a clear window on one side, so you can see something inside it. Maybe some of the packs are hidden behind others, but you can always see something. I can't think of anything Pokemon has released in probably the last 15 years that's a completely opaque box. They always want to show you something of what you're getting. So if it's a completely opaque box, which just has graphics on it and you can't actually see anything in it, it's probably repackaged.
And to that same, point for me is do not buy anything from streamers. Though obviously, the controversies around Whatnot and TikTok and eBay Live, whatever those things. Again, too much potential for game playing, too much potential for higher priced gambling. You end up paying higher prices for the euphoria on screen of people participating for the big card, and then you actually never know if you're going to get it. So again, stick with the basics, stick with, reputable companies. Whether you got all these different companies out there that are big type folks, whether or not it's Safari Zone or Blowout Cards or Dave and Adams or, I don't, there's some other companies that I'm not big fans of, but they're fine. They just single cards. They don't do a great job of grading. So just be careful. And again, try to stay to the basics. I think, that's the best way to do it. I want to talk a second about storage. So Dan, remind me of that in a minute. But I do want to talk about, Dan, why should or should not, why is it important or is it not important for a new collector to spend at least one time, one day, 1 hour or two going to a local card show if you're lucky enough to have one in your area?
So a local card show or a store that sells singles probably, I think, fills the same remit. It just gives you a lot of opportunity to see a lot of cards in person. More than you're ever going to buy in one go. Like local card shows and these high-end stores that sell a lot of singles will have the majority of chase cards from recent sets, but there'll also be a variety from throughout Pokemon's history. So if you go to a local card show, if you look around a whole show, if it's big enough, you'll be able to see, the evolutions from Prismatic Evolutions. You'll be able to see the Umbreon from Evolving Skies. But if you keep going around, you'll be able to see some rainbows. You'll see some level X's. You'll see maybe some gold stars, and you can see a lot of stuff in person and decide from there what you like. Because if you see level X's or you see primes or something, and you go, "Oh wow, that's jumping out to me. That's the type of card I want to collect." You're not going to get that same thing from just seeing images of them online. It's not going to jump out to you the way something will in person, where you'll go, "That's what I want." And then once you know what you want to collect, then that's when you can start doing a bit more research on your own, finding out what options are out there, come up with a game plan of how you're going to build that collection to the point you want it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think about the introduction to my sports card journey 100 years ago. Sports cards, when I was very young, 20 years old or whatever, really was formulated by me going to shows. And I watched and I listened and I watched and I listened and I talked to people and I tried to see what people were interested in buying and what was, the focus of the shows and where most of the interest was. And I let that kind of guide me to where I ended up really making some kind of surprise decisions in the moment, but it's because I had learned very, very quickly. And it's a very inexpensive way. I don't know what admission is, for Dan, $100 card show doesn't cost it. It's like nothing these days. But
All
for
of the
most
local ones in Columbus are free to enter.
okay, good. So
If
that's
if
not
like
that's
I
not like
obviously
it
pay
here,
for
Dan. But
yeah.
but
I
yeah, but
obviously
if
pay for tables if I'm a vendor, but all
right,
of the local shows in Columbus are free to enter. You just can go
yeah.
in and wander around. It's great.
So if it's $10 or whatever it is here, for a day at a card show, whatever, I'm kind of
Yeah.
joking, but it's a tremendous education. And not only was Dan 100% right when he talked about all the things you can see in there, but it's also interesting because as I watch the point of view videos, POV videos that you see where a lot of these vendors are getting, thousands of views because people like to see, they're not at the show, but they like to see what's going on. And, And a lot of those point of view vendor videos, unfortunately, have people stealing stuff from them. But that's not my point here. My point is, and Dan may disagree, but he's not going to disagree because he knows I won't continue to podcast with him. So keep the mouth shut, Norton, with the green hair. I think that, to me, I see a lot of good people. I see a lot of folks at tables that seem like really good people. And I'm going to theorize and make my own kind of hypothesis about this. Who's going to take the time and effort to go to a show and set up and do all that? Yeah, you make a little bit of money, but you sure can make a lot more money in other ways that's a lot less effort involved. So I think that a lot of these folks are the type of people who you could have a conversation with. I see a lot of trades that are made in the people that are coming up to buy's favor, and a lot of willingness to bargain and do a lot of card trading and buying and selling and information. And to me, it seems really kind of cool for anybody that's starting out, because of that variety, because of that flexibility, because of a great education, and because you might find a vendor that's really willing to work with you as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely say it's not all vendors. There are definitely some vendors at card shows who are there to make money, and that's all it is to them. They don't want to have a conversation with you, but you'll get that vibe as soon as you start talking to them. But like you say, there are a lot where you can just start chatting to them. They're happy to chat about Pokemon. As long as they're not too busy, if you're just wanting to chat to them, don't take them away from customers or whatever if they're needing to actually go and sell stuff. But if it's a little bit slower, most vendors are going to be more than happy to chat to you about the stuff. Like when I've gone to shows, I've had my case with my valuable stuff in it, and that it was stuff that's out of the price range of a lot of people who go to these shows, but so many people just want to know about it. They've never seen these cards before, and I always just enjoy chatting to people, telling them about the cards. They always say it's really cool, and on my end, if we have a nice chat about the cards, even if they can't buy the $1,000 cards that I've got out there, if we've had a nice chat, they're more likely to buy a couple of $5 cards from me, which is great. I'm always happy to talk to anyone about Pokemon. I'm always happy to answer questions or help people out where I can. And you just have to find the right people at the shows who will help you out, not rip you off. Just find the right people. Have good chats.
Do you have a feel, Dan, for if I wanted to go to a show and again, I know there's not going to be any systematic way of answering this, but and by the way, the cat is still sleeping, so he really doesn't care. He just enjoys the tone of our voices. Do you have an idea of, is there a better time to go to a show, like the very beginning, the middle, or the end, as far as when it might be less busy? So the idea would be you might be able to spend a bit more time talking to the vendors without interfering with all of the other buyers that are potentially in front of them?
The middle. If you're just starting out and you're trying to get a feel for things, the middle is a good time to go, because the very start is always hectic because everyone's want to check if there's good deals. They're wanting to get around every seller real quick to get an idea of what everyone's got and try and snap up the thing that they want. So that's always a bit hectic. And then towards the end of the day, I mean, one, the sellers are having to get ready to start packing up, but also there's then all of the people who will often go to sellers. And at that point, it's like, okay, you don't want to put all that stuff back in your car. What can we do here? Like, can we get some discounts going here? And to be honest, that works a lot of the time. Like, if you go, like, I've done it myself before. Like, I've let people get a good deal from me at the end of the day because I had some big box sets at one point, and at the end of the day, it was just a simple case of, taking $30 less is worth me not having to bubble wrap this back up and put it back in my car and take it home again. So there are a lot of people doing that at the end of the day. So the middle of the day is kind of where it's going to be a bit more relaxed. You're going to have maybe a bit more time to chat to some of the vendors. You're going to have a bit more time and a bit more space to look at people's tables and that kind of thing. You're not going to be, crammed in like sardines with 50 people trying to flip the same binder at once.
Yeah. And by the way, my family does that with all of the cookie places here in the Vegas area, Dan. We go right at the end of the day and we go, look, we know you guys are going to take those home and eat them for yourselves. Your boss doesn't like that. We need half price cookies right now before you throw them away or you sell them tomorrow at half price. Maybe you want to give us a couple and whatever. And that's because that's everyone else in my family. I don't do that. I don't eat sweets, of course.
I'll tell you what I do. The very first thing I do whenever I go to one of these local Columbus card shows, there's one stall where Guy owns it as a store. He runs it as a card show, but he brings his daughters with him. Very young kids. They do a little bit of baking, and what they bake for the card shows, they bake pepperoni pizza rolls, but there's no cheese in them. Just nice dough with pepperoni in it, and it's $1.50 for a little bag with 2. And my first stop every day is I go over there with $15, and I say, give me 10 bags of those. I want 20 of these rolls, and that's all I'm eating all day. While I'm a vendor, I'm just snacking on those all day. It's the best thing about those card shows. Those are delicious.
Dan, you make me sick, okay? You cannot stay focused on Pokemon. Anytime a non-dairy food item comes up, that's all you want to talk about. You know what? This is the reason nobody wants to view your podcast, buddy. Nobody can tell if it's a foodie podcast or a Pokemon podcast. Are you even sure yourself?
There was a Magic the Gathering podcast for 2 days when you were off sick.
Okay, fair enough. Dan, here's the deal. I need some comments from. I hope you're there. Are you still listening, Dan? Okay, you just unlocked.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, Dan. I need comments from the audience on the following things. Today we did not discuss collecticons. Neither Dan nor I think have ever been. I have not been to one. I don't think Dan's been to one. And I'd love to hear if you know what you guys think about that, because that's not a small undertaking to travel to something like that. It's one thing if you're a vendor, but if you've ever gone just to be a shopper and look for things, how willing are people to bargain and deal, and what do you see there and that kind of thing? Is it worth it? I'm curious about that. So anybody that would talk about that, anybody that would like us to speak further, we're already 45 minutes in, so I just don't want to make the video any longer.
And we still need to talk about storage, because you said we had to talk about card storage in this video.
I am going to talk about that at the very end. So anybody that's got any other ideas for us to bring up other subjects related to this or our opinions, I'd love to hear that in the comments. What do you guys think? And you know, did we forget something? Because obviously we can't cover it all in 40 some minutes. Number 3, I want to know, is it worth me even coming back on the podcast? I'm seriously considering abandoning the thing in full. I saw Laura's podcast. I think she does a much better job than me. In fact, I think maybe we just bail Dan out completely. It's just Laura and me going forward. And she and I have talked privately about that. No one knows how to break the news to Dan at this point. So you know, let me know what you think about that. And Dan, you want to comment on all those things and defend yourself before I talk storage?
No, I am more than happy to set you and Laura up to do one podcast together, and we'll see how that ends up.
Okay. The problem is, Dan, you're willing to set her and me up for not just podcasts, and I'm not ready.
The problem is that neither of you can edit the thing.
Okay, fair enough. That's a good technical explanation. Dan, storage. Here's what I'm going to say about storage in a very simplistic way. Spend virtually nothing on storage when you get started. Just because it is impossible. I have been through so many iterations of what I thought I wanted to do my cards. I had every valuable card in a hard card holder. And then I moved some to top loaders, and sometimes they're just in sleeves, and sometimes they're in binder pages, but then you get a graded card. So you need a graded card binder or a box for that. So I just encourage, you know, whoever you're helping do this, whoever you're advising, to take their time. I really think it should just be sleeves and sheets for a while by a minimal amount, so you can just store and flip those pages and get, you know, used to looking at what you really enjoy. I think the biggest expense was if you really felt like you were going to go into this big time, maybe you buy something like a big Vault-X binder just as a one-time expense, because it can store so many cards, and it can also be transitioned over to a set if you ultimately decide you wanted to collect a set. But other than that, I would really focus on just sleeves and binder pages, because they're a cheap way to get your footing and then decide sooner than I did that you needed to take out thousands of cards because you ultimately wanted them in binders and in binder pages so you could see them, and not in boxes where they were in hard card holders and I couldn't even get to them and enjoy looking at them. Dan?
I think definitely buy one nice binder to start. Either it can be like the Vault-X zip-up ones, or even just the ones with the elastic strap around it, but fabric pages, side loading. There are ones you can get at GameStop or Walmart. Like, GameStop does some of the Pokemon branded ones. You know, they're not specific to a set, they just have Pokemon on them. Walmart does just the standard, like, single color binders, but still side loading fabric pages. I think they're only about $13 at Walmart, but they protect the cards so much better. And just have that, like you say, when they start, just make that your favorite cards binder. Just have something where, because if you have loads of binder pages, you really don't want to be flipping through the pages too much, because in ring binders and stuff, you know, is more risk of damaging there. But a side-loading fabric page binder stitched in, you can flip it as much as you want. You're not in... You have no worries about damaging the cards. Even if you are starting a collection for a kid, it is just nice for them to be able to say, even if you're just buying them, bulk, they can pick out their favorites and they can fill up their binder. They're still going to enjoy that. So definitely agree with what you said on getting one nice binder, but then, don't go over the top with thinking, everything can be sleeved, penny sleeves. You can get penny sleeves. For less than a penny, if you buy them in bulk enough, I think I buy my penny sleeves like 10, 20,000 at a time, and they come down to about 0.4 cents per sleeve, actually. So you can get a lot of penny sleeves. That's fine. But I think just one of the biggest regrets I ever had was not investing in sleeves when I first started. When I first started, I just had piles, as everyone does. Sleeves is definitely good when you're first starting. I will say, if you're collecting, even if you get ETBs, don't use ETB sleeves for your collection. Those are meant for decks. They're for playing. Get the penny sleeves. It's something with a fully transparent back. You don't want the ETB sleeves, because, I know how many sets are at your house, David, where we still have to re-sleeve them because people on eBay have sleeved them all in ETB sleeves. There's so many sets we have to redo. But
yeah, and you can't see them, which is at some point you're going to want to really know what those conditions are. So, and that leads to the topic that I think will be a good transition into our next video, Dan, which is I do think it's important to at least cover grading. That's always a big topic everybody likes to hear about.
Yeah.
But how important should grading or not grading be as you start out, and we'll cover that next time. So I don't want to go any longer because I'll be honest, Dan, I'm pretty angry. I didn't expect to get angry today, but when you told me you would promise me that you would cut us off at 15 minutes so my neck and jaw wouldn't hurt anymore, and you refused to do that. We're 3 times that length, and you didn't keep your promise.
Yeah, at 15 minutes, you were still talking about your jaw. You hadn't started the episode at 15 minutes yet.
Dan, do you listen to the? I don't know how I do it. If I called you out as much as you called me out, then I'd be calling you out even more than you called me out. And I'm not going to call you out, Dan, because I'm sick of you calling me out, okay? Let's call each other later.
I've been awake for 26 hours, and I've had 3 liters of energy drink today because I had a lot of work to do, so...
Well, here's a thought for you,
buddy. I'm
in
a call-out mood.
Here's a thought for you. Maybe next time you're at the old card show, you buy a few more dairy-free pizza rolls, and you bring them on home with you, and you eat them when you're hungry and stuff. Eat them for the next 6 months, okay? That's a nice bottle. Okay, good Vaporian. Dan, I'm going to say goodbye. You want to say goodbye too?
Yeah, we'll say goodbye. Thanks for watching, everyone. What else do we have to say? There's that affiliate link. I think I mentioned it once before you disappeared. The TCG Player affiliate link does now work and is in the description. So you can click that if you want to buy through TCG Player. And maybe
we're going to get you one for Vault-X as well pretty soon, okay? So we'll get you that one
I'll
too.
Figure that out.
If you want to buy a binder.
Yeah,
it's nice to be back.
I've used Vault-X binders. Vault-X are probably going to be my binders going forward, to be honest. I think the only time I'm not going to buy Vault-X going forward is there's some dead CCGs where I was doing Gamegenic for a while, and Gamegenic binders had the color of the actual pages match the hardcover, whereas Vault-X and Ultra Pro, they do the hardcover and then it's all black pages. So there are some games where 90% of the game is already in a certain Gamegenic binder, so I'll get those to match, but going forward, I think Vault-X is going to be where I'm at because I can order stuff in bulk and everyone has referral codes. It's great.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
All right, my friend.
All right.
Great to see everybody. Take care. We'll see you again soon.
See you guys tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Coffee Talks with Dan Norton and David Person, with music by More Than Never and artwork by Lore Norton. A special thanks to all our Patreon members. Join us again next time.
But they don't want you to.